Welcome to Politics Done Right. I am your host, Egberto Willies. This is a progressive program that will take the mystery out of politics. This is the program that will encourage you to make sure government becomes we the people. Whether you are liberal, progressive, conservative, or otherwise, you get to air your point of view. We are an independent media outlet that, unlike mainstream media beholden to corporations, we only owe allegiance to you. Remember, you can also send me a tweet at EGBERTOWILLIES. That is at Egberto Willies. Let us engage. It is Politics Done Right.
Well, folks, welcome to one more edition of Politics Done Right. I'm Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being a part of the show. We are going to have a great show for you today. Welcome aboard. First one in the house today, Patrick Magner. Meow, my dear brother. Second person in the house is Yvette Herod from Atlanta, Georgia. Patrick is from Houston, Texas. Eric Hayes is a third from Atascocita, Kingwood. Melanie Keelan, fourth from Barcelona, Spain. Lee Grant, fifth from Montgomery County. Mike Cisak from Missouri. And let's see, I don't see anybody else to mention in the little chat. All right, and welcome Substack, Regina Sheriff, Jean Rich, Sheila Meek, and I missed a whole bunch because I started it up late. But anyhow, welcome aboard, guys. Great to see you here. Thank you for being here as part of the Politics Done Right family. We are going to have a great show. Do you all remember when Donald Trump went out there and he said, if Kamala Harris is elected, the stock market is going to crash. The stock market will crash if she's elected. Toto! Guess what? Not true. Good afternoon, Joe from Los Angeles, California. Welcome to Politics Done Right. And Nicholas from Venice Beach. Welcome, Nicholas, as well. Anyway, remember, the stock market's going to crash if you go ahead and elect Kamala Harris. And, remember what we talk about Donald Trump all of the time. He is the biggest projector that there is. If he says something, welcome, Regina says hi, everyone. If he says something, understand, if he says something about somebody else, understand that it is something that he is thinking. Didi Cortinas. Guys, remember on Substack, the platform is not very conducive for me calling you out. So if I miss you, forgive me and just drop something in the chat and more than likely I'll then catch it. Dave Susek, welcome aboard. Anyway, but yeah, folks, look, the reality is Donald Trump has been a disgrace, not only personally, not only morally, but even for the country. And the thing that gets me the most is that we have allowed his lies, things like his economy was one of the greatest before the pandemic, false. He had the biggest tax cut, false. He had the biggest growth in GDP, false. All those things are false. And unfortunately, doesn't matter how many times Robert Reich corrects it, none of that matters. May I help you? Yes.
This is caller Harry.
Yes, sir. How can I help you, Harry?
Okay, I'm going to, you just mentioned something that I've mentioned on your morning program several times when you talk about projection with Donald Trump. And you probably don't remember it, but I'll remind you. I was talking a couple times. I told you about that movie, For Your Eyes Only, James Bond movie that came out in 1980. Well, with James Bond, when he was chasing the two people in that movie, Columbo, who he was chasing, was talking about projection with his former friend, Christatos. And he was talking about how he told you about himself. And as you just mentioned there, Egberto Willis, about Kamala Harris and Donald Trump. He's thinking, and he does projection. When he told the American public that if you elect Kamala Harris to try to con people into not voting for her, the stock market is going to crash. Well, what happened? The stock market has crashed. He told you about himself on the campaign tour.
Exactly right, my brother Harry. Hey, but Harry, let me go ahead and continue with the show. We only got an hour, and thank you for calling in.
That's right.
Tell your brother I say hi, okay?
He's doing better, and keep doing what you're doing. And one of these days, Alan and myself are going to come out and protest with you. When you guys do those protests, yes.
Love to hear that, brother.
I'm going to send you. I got to send you an email.
No problem. We got to get off. But go ahead and send me the email, brother. Send me the email. Thank you.
Bye-bye. Send you the email.
All right, folks. That is Harry, our good friend from the morning show. Anyway, folks, look. So we know that it's projection, but look, everything that this guy touches turns to lead, turns to something bad. And it whether it is employees, whether it is whatever it is, it turns bad, and it is something that we should mitigate. Anyway, let me see if anybody has anything to say before I play my first video. Yeah, Bridge MCP is correct. His cult just echoes what he says, no thoughts of their own. And in that light, Bridge, I want you to listen. Welcome aboard, Michael, for coming in late, but welcome aboard. I want you guys to listen to an exchange that I had this morning at the end of the show with somebody that calls all of the times. Okay, I want you to listen to this because it says much. It says much. But beforehand, let me put Mr. Rudnin's screenshot up because I think it's important to show. It says, Trump tariffs causes global meltdown, change in major stock market indices since Trump inauguration. The USA has been down 17.4%, Japan 18.1%, Europe 9.9%, Canada 8.4%, China only 4.1%. This shows you something. This shows you, by the way these markets are reacting, it shows you one thing. The United States is going to hurt itself more than it's going to hurt others. And let's remember this. These people, we buy a whole lot of stuff. And all this stuff that we buy is going to come at a higher price that's going into the treasury. And the reason Trump is doing this is not about manufacturing back in the United States. Do you think we're going for us to manufacture textiles, we have to import the equipment that create the equipment that manufactures? I mean, it is silly. Look, there are good reasons to use tariffs, but we have left the genie so much out of the bottle that recovering to bring manufacturing back is not a fast process. It's a slow, methodical process that requires people to do things right and requires a lot of government investment and taxing those people who actually caused us to lose a lot of our manufacturing base. That's what it's going to take. It's not magic, but that's what it's going to take. Breach says Donald Trump's notable business failures include Trump Airlines, Trump Mortgage, Trump University, Trump Steaks, Trump Vodka, and several casinos such as Trump Taj Mahal, Trump Plaza, which all filed for bankruptcy. His ventures often face significant financial losses and legal issues, lending a reputation for not paying contractors and vendors. And American banks simply don't lend to Donald Trump because he's a poor risk. He's a horrendous person, a lousy businessman, and only the mentally can believe. I'm not going to use the word. You know what word it is. All right, another one for the screen from Brother Rudnin says it hurts itself in its confusion. Yep, I think that's about right. Welcome, Bruce Pollard from Kingwood, Texas. Welcome to Politics Done Right. All right, I want you guys to listen to this caller from this morning because it is ideally and it shows exactly the problem with those who subscribe to MAGA methodology. In this very short exchange with a caller to my KPFT show this morning, this MAGA caller illustrates exactly what is wrong and why they have allowed the evil folks like Donald Trump to do what he's doing to America, to Americans, and to the rest of the world. This caller thought it was he was going to get somewhere by calling me a Marxist. Of course, I disregard the labels when people call it out, because the idea that folks on the right use by calling you a Marxist, socialist, communist, or all the other labels they want to give you is to prevent the discussion about the real issues about what's afflicting the American people. I don't care what you want to call me. All I know is that the policies that I support are policies to make the lives of working class, middle class, and poor Americans better. I support policies and programs that gives everybody equal access to success and the ability to be whatever they want to be. My contention is, of course, that the current economic system that we have here is not a meritocracy. You have to be chosen. And people may say, well, look, I'm a lawyer and I did fine. I'm a doctor, but I did fine. The way doctors are picked, it's chosen. Yeah, you have stand a good chance, but you're chosen. Check out how medical schools work. Same with lawyering. When it comes to engineering, I know a lot of engineers that are still looking for a job, not because there are not a whole lot of jobs out there, but because they weren't chosen. We have H-1B1 visas out there, but a lot of engineers that are without jobs, and the companies would say things like, we couldn't find a match, right? So let's be very, very clear here. The mentality of the man that you're going to hear now is something that was instituted by many of the folks on the right, but not only that. It has triggered those that are wired or predisposed to be so unempathetic to think this way. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. All right, Brian, I think as usual, you close out my program. Go ahead.
Oh, I'm sorry. I get to close out. You're a Marxist, so why would you want to re-erect something that developed during Morris Code, 1847? Why would you think an economic system would work in today's environment?
Let me ask you, do you feel that the current economic system is working?
Oh, hey, puts money on my table. Feeds me every day, my wife.
Okay, that's fine. Okay, I'm glad that it feeds you. Now, do you care anything about anybody else?
Hey, if they got a job, guess what? They're doing the same thing.
Okay, now let me just say this, right? 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, not by choice, but because they have no choice. You think an economic system that depends on that reality is good?
Yes, I do.
Okay, good. Then I know where you stand. Thank you very much, Brian. You have a wonderful rest of your day. I got to close this baby out. Let's go to the studio. So his basic answer is, I am doing fine. Who the hell care about anyone who isn't? Unfortunately for Mr. MAGA here, he may be one of the MAGAs doing fine. But for the MAGAs in Appalachia, from Pennsylvania all the way down to Alabama, they're the ones hurt more by Trump's policies than anyone else. Maybe somebody should tell them that. Maybe somebody should tell them that red states are poorer, sicker, and less educated, not because of anything of the persons proper, but because of the government they choose to elect and the ideology they choose to follow. When these things change, just maybe their lives would be better, and they can stop blaming those who have little to do with what ails them, which have little to do with what ails them. But again, like I'm going to keep saying, I'm going to keep talking to them. I have a lot of MAGA listeners on both KPFT and otherwise. And believe it or not, the reason you keep talking is that some seeds get planted, and at some time, some switch occurs with a certain percentage. Now, there are those that are completely mentally incapacitated in which that will never occur. I get it. But there are quite a few that it will work. It's amazing because many want to believe that, and I got this because Belcher was on MSNBC today talking about a lot of the MAGA base is still with Trump relative to, he's convinced them that, the tariff is going to be good for them. Well, let's remember a few things of the past. I want you to remember things that guys like Ted Cruz and also Marco Rubio had to say. Listen to this, and then let's go ahead and take it on the other side. Let me get that up on the screen before I get it started. See if we can get it done.
China's not going to pay the tariff. The buyer is going to pay the tariff.
Donald Trump has proposed a 40% tariff, which is a tax on all of you. I think raising your taxes by 40% would kill jobs all across this country.
I have never agreed with the president's tariff policy, and that's why I do call him and I say, Mr. President, I need to talk to you about these tariffs. And he will come back and he'll say, oh, Joni, I know that you don't like tariffs, but I'm a tariff guy.
Taxing European car imports hurts BMW because they can do the same thing to us. China wins when we fight with Europe. China wins when the American consumer has higher prices because of tariffs that don't affect Chinese behavior.
Now with a 10% tariff laid down, who pays that tariff? The American workers and the American companies pay the brunt of all those. So far, Americans have paid $12 billion in tariffs. It's not punishing the Chinese, it's punishing us.
The highest tariff levels in the history of this country, the Smoot-Hawley tariffs, were enacted, and it shut down world trade. There's little doubt that these protectionist barriers that were put up in 1930 or 31 made the Great Depression worse. So let's not repeat that mistake.
I hope that our administration is looking at ways to expand and grow opportunities for American businesses and farmers and ranchers, and not get us into this tit-for-tat trade war with some of these countries, even China.
A generalized tariff that would actually harm allies, harm American consumers, by the way. And again, if we start engaging in trade wars, I just don't believe anybody wins a trade war, quite honestly. I just think there's so much collateral damage. I think it's a very risky and dangerous strategy.
I'm much more of a free trader. I have worry about retaliation against our products that certainly we have a lot of in Wyoming. So I'm focused on the businesses here at home, the impact of trade, and the impact of tariffs, which I have concerns about, and specifically the retaliation that may come as a result of this new announcement.
Strong trade relationships, particularly with Canada and Mexico, are primary drivers of our nation's economy. We must protect those relationships and be careful as we consider changes in our approach to trade to be certain that Americans continue to benefit from the economic opportunities that have created by a strong trade policy.
The tariff is...
All right. So as you guys see, it turns out that all of these Republicans that are now supporting this tariff, well, they're simply going against what their core beliefs are. Anyway, Patrick Magner, what's up?
Hey, how's everybody?
Oh, we're doing fine, man. Could you hear the? I think I had the channel incorrect. Could you hear the video through your phone as well?
Yeah, it took a few seconds, but then it worked, and I appreciate that.
Okay,
everything seemed to work just fine.
Good. Anyway, what's up?
While I was doing some chores and things, and it might have even been from you, but Rachel Maddow shed some light on where the tariff idea came from.
Oh, you mean the imaginary? The imaginary economist. That is no more than Navarro's name spelled a different way. Yeah.
Yeah. I did you share that with everybody on the?
Oh yeah, I did a whole. I did a whole. Okay. I think 10-minute piece on it. Yeah.
Yeah, I found that great. I couldn't remember if it was you or not. And yeah, I mean, that sheds a lot of light. And the fact that even now that we know this, that we're still convinced that things are going to work out is just crazy. I mean, it's nothing more than I guess
ego. In other words, we don't want to go back on. It is amazing because I think, I don't know if you guys heard when I was, if you heard my little soliloquy on, I think it was on Monday on KPFT, where I pointed out that if an economic system is so fragile that somebody can come up with a stupid idea, talk about it, and causes the entire system to crash, that means it's based not on anything of value. If you can crash an economic, think about it, Patrick. Think about this. If your economic system is based on sustainable stuff, right? Then stock markets and so forth shouldn't matter, because if you ask yourself the question, what after that guy opened that mouth and said something, fundamentally nothing changed. Everybody's going to work. The metals are still in the ground. The oil is still in the ground and pumping. All the levers of the physical economic system continues. The software continues to work. Programmers continue to program. All those things continue. That says that the crashing part of the market is really the speculative, the casino portion of the market, and trying to get that message across to people. Because nothing changed. The same thing. You remember when the economic system locked up in 2008? Nothing changed between day one and day two. What locked up is the pieces of paper, the speculative paper in between investment bankers, lawyers, etc. That's what failed, and that is that is who we saved. But nothing changed the goods and services that needed to be rendered or the goods and services that exist. It's the mechanism to move those around that actually got changed, and shame on our educational system that it has people believing anything else, anything other than what I just said. Continue, my brother.
Well, that's kind of why I called too. I also called because of the clip from Brian. Brian more than once has said that you're quoting Marxism or that you're a Marxist. The first thing I would ask Brian is, how does he know that? Because Marxism isn't taught here. You can't go to a single university. You can't go anywhere online, and you can't sign up for a course on Marxism because capitalism is so scared that you're going to learn about it.
Mm-hmm. You have to go to Richard Wolff and get some information from his book, etc. And, the thing about it is, look, I don't call myself a Marxist, a socialist, a communist, or whatever. Well, if somebody asks me, the best I'll do is I'll say, well, I'm a democratic socialist in that saying. I believe in all those, in what that particular party stands for. But if you take a look at the calculations done within the Marxist books, right? It is saying exactly as it should. If you take a look at what the capitalist book says, it is, look, the capitalism is behaving exactly as it is supposed to behave. Heartless, just based on the notions of capital, nothing else. Go ahead, brother.
Yeah, well, a lot of what I understand about Karl Marx is that he was looking for ways to reduce suffering in the capitalist system. And if that's wrong, then call me a Marxist. I mean, what is wrong with that?
There's nothing wrong with it. The reason I am careful with how I label myself is it stops the discussion immediately. Americans have been so polarized by the Powell memo that you cannot, that they try to box you into something. The policies that we believe in is what I try to stick with going forward. The specific policies that everybody like. And if they want to label that later on, they'll realize it sure as hell ain't capitalism. It is something else.
Yeah, Brian's content. Brian's content with this society as long as he's making money, is what he said. I'd like to point out that he calls KPFT all day. He says that the last thing that he said that he's doing, and I emphasize last, is he said that he surfaces concrete. Before that, he said that he was an automotive mechanic. But then I had a really big red flag when he called up and said that there's a problem with solar because it uses DC current. Any mechanic that is more than an entry level understands direct current and understands that there's not a advantage or disadvantage in a small area for alternate current versus direct current. So he's also been a Marine. He's also worked on the boat that he called about this morning. He's also he's claimed about 15 different jobs, but he doesn't work because he can call KPFT all day. And then another thing I've noticed is it's the same topic every day, but every day it changes. So I believe he's getting an email or something as a suggestion on what to talk about because he's being paid to do this.
I'm starting to believe you, but you know what? Let them do that. I'm okay with that. Here's the funny thing, though, right? When he mentioned that he did gravels, I pointed out how he was being taken advantage of. He didn't care. He didn't care. He just thought, well, I do a job. So these guys I think these guys would do well to be slaves. I honestly do. I think these guys have a certain mentality that it's okay if they're slaves just for the right kind of people, Patrick. It is okay if they serve, but they must serve just the right kind of people. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But anyhow, anything else, my brother?
Yeah, I'm taking up a lot of time. I would just say that if he really was in construction and he really was resurfacing concrete, he would not have an issue with the immigrants around him because he would understand that they're good people because every single one I work shoulder to shoulder with are very good people, and I don't want to see them go. And
the other thing is that they know the job very well. In fact, yes, when those are the people when it comes to building things that are some of the best builders. They come here and they build homes out of wood, and then they go back to Mexico or Cuba or whatever and build the homes the way we build it in Panama, out of concrete, rebar, concrete blocks, and plaster. It's amazing, man. But anyhow, thank you, my brother. We'll talk.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Anyway, folks, continuing with El Programa, let me go ahead. I have one last video. This is another piece that I did either this morning or a couple of mornings ago. I think it was this morning. I kind of lose track of time, but it has to do with the tariffs. Check this out, and then we'll take it on the other side. We constantly ask the working class, the middle class, to pay for the corporate failures. I want to express the end of that because as soon as I make that statement, I can understand where you're going to have right people on the right saying, what are you saying? Government owning industry? That is communism. Not really, but I want to make a point here. Right now, back in the 60s and 70s, as we started exporting jobs, right? Exporting, building our products overseas. In effect, that was exporting jobs. I want you to listen to this keenly. What that meant is corporations found that China, Vietnam, well, not Vietnam then, but China and other countries, since their labor was so cheap and since their environmental laws were so lax, it is a lot cheaper to build a product overseas. And therefore, the factories that were here would be gone. If you take a look at the textile alley back in the Carolinas and other places, gone. The garment factories in New York, gone overseas because they could make it much cheaper overseas and then ship it here. And that's fine, right? That is capitalism, the efficient allocation of resources. And if you can allocate resources in China and get a better allocation, fine. It does nothing for humanity, but it works. Now, Americans paid the price as those jobs got exported. The workers that lost their jobs, and by having more workers in America without jobs, it depresses the entire salary base because there are more people vying for a job. Right? There are more people wanting the same job. Therefore, the employer doesn't have to pay all that much. So it depresses the entire working class as it enriches the rich. Because why? As they build the products cheaper overseas, their profit margins become that much larger. So we, the American people, paid the price with lower employment, lower wages for having these products made overseas. But that was chosen by the corporations. Now, there are also some caveats, right? If there is a snowstorm in one of these big cities that have these big factories, right? It affects our supply chain. If there's a pandemic, because we're building all this stuff overseas, it affects the supply chain. If there is a hurricane and several ships get overturned in the middle of the Atlantic or the Pacific or wherever, the supply chain gets broken, and it means there are higher prices. And who paid those again? We, the working class, again, pays the higher prices because these corporate heathens decided to build everything or a large percentage overseas. And to further put some salt in the wound, they create something called JITI, just-in-time inventory, which means not only do they build the products overseas, but they don't store enough on American soil. They don't keep a reserve enough on American soil so that in the case of disruptions of this supply chain, Americans are not going to be sucked again with paying the price of the ineptitude or the selfishness and greed of the corporate sector. And that's what happened, in fact, with the pandemic, right? We always bear the burden. And every time we bear the burden, it's not a break even for corporations. They make even more money on the burden. You want an example? Let's take an example for oil shipments. Well, oil is not good because we're oil positive. Let's go ahead and take an example: garments that are going to Walmart, and the supply chain is broken. All right, the ships have sunk, etc. So we're going to have a 3-month supply chain lag. What Walmart does to the prices in the store, they raise the prices of those garments in the store. But guess what, guys? The garments didn't cost any more to make. Those garments were made on cheap labor, but the price goes up because there's a false scarcity, right? And as that price goes up and the price of the product really stayed the same, your pain of paying more for that garment means even more money for the rich person. Why again? Because guess what? The price of manufacture didn't change. So they make more money for selling less product. So they are always on the winning side of the equation. And my type of solution says, well, you know what? We're going to call your bluff. You always want to be on the winning side? Okay, let's make the working class be on the winning side. We want to have at least one garment factory that makes cloth. All right, we don't make machines that make cloth. We don't make any of these things anymore. So any corporations, go ahead and build it. Nobody build it. The government goes ahead and builds it, and they go ahead and hire people. And guess what? Guess what's the overhead? There's no executive to pay bonuses to. There are no shareholders to sell for profit. So all of that money that would have gone into the capitalist formation of a corporation now goes into the government. And if some corporation later wants to say, no, I want to be in that business, hey, be my guest, come on in. Right? But the government could actually act as a damper, as a buffer to the greed of corporations and put some balance into these things. Look, it's above my pay grade to have all those intricacies. But you know what, guys? If we really had a government by and of the people, we would create those mechanisms to force the corporate sector, not from bleeding us dry for absolutely everything, but for actually keeping a balance to make sure we all have equal access to success. We all have equal access to everything. Absolutely so. Absolutely so. Now, I have another video that I found on TikTok on the tariff issues and others that I think you guys are going to find quite interesting. Let me cue that up and get that on the screen right this minute and tell me what you think.
Tariffs, the dismantling of the Department of Education, and the planned drastic reductions in Social Security, Medicaid, and healthcare create the three deathly hallows of the Trump presidency. Hi, my name is Nathan, and I make long videos that are backed by tons of research and critical thinking. If you prefer 10-second videos, do not watch this video because I am not that creator, and there are plenty of creators who will do that for you. If you want to learn and have a short attention span, just hold down here and this video will play at 2x speed. Let's get into it. By now, we all understand that the tariffs are meant to bring back domestic manufacturing to the United States. In the long run, this is a good thing, but it definitely negatively impacts the lower and middle class. First off, manufacturing in the United States is very expensive, and we also don't have any manufacturing facilities in the United States to cover all of the companies that currently use overseas manufacturing to produce in the United States. We also don't have materials, textiles, machinery, all of those things are necessary to be able to manufacture here. Let's take a look at Tesla, who built a gigafactory in Texas. It took them 2 years to be able to build that. In addition to it taking Tesla 2 years, they also received over $1.1 billion in tax incentives from Texas and local municipalities. Today, over 3,000 U.S. companies use international manufacturing and import their goods. 99 out of the top 100 industrial corporations in the U.S. use international manufacturing. We don't have the land, we don't have the facilities, we don't have the materials, we don't have the machinery, and we definitely do not have the labor. Or do we? And this segues into the dismantling of the Department of Education. It has been a political agenda of Republicans to prevent white students from going to college for almost 30 years now. Why? Well, white voters tend to vote for Democrats at almost a 22-point margin. This is very bad for Republicans. So they try very, very hard to prevent white Americans from going to college. With the removal of federal funding that goes to public schools to be able to cover the percentage they need to be able to keep their schools open, this will directly impact poorer states who receive a higher percentage of the federal funding. States will struggle to be able to produce quality education in an already struggling environment, and I promise you that these local neighborhoods and local county residents will not vote to raise their property taxes to cover for this. So what does that have to do with domestic manufacturing? Well, currently it's estimated that undocumented immigrants currently make up anywhere between 39 to 61% of all blue-collar workers working in manufacturing, agricultural, and construction. We also have enough data from Brexit to know that if you prevent undocumented immigrants from being able to work blue-collar jobs, you will not be able to replace them. I think you get where I'm going with this by now. The solution is going to be teenage and young adult labor. Let's take a look at Louisiana that just received a $21 billion commitment to invest in the building of an electric steel manufacturing facility. First off, they received this investment from Hyundai. If you don't know what it's like to work for a Korean company, as a Korean, I can tell you it's a lot. Korea ranks in the top at one of the worst stats that I cannot say because TikTok will suppress this video, but you should look up what happens to Korean workers who feel like they're overworked. Now, Louisiana also ranks 40th in our country in education. They're one of the worst. So why would a company like Hyundai choose Louisiana to build their factories? We all know the answer. First off, Louisiana permits 16-year-olds to drop out of high school and work full-time hours. Second, Louisiana abides by the national minimum wage rate, which is $7.25 per hour. Third, and here is the clincher, Louisiana does not require that employers pay full-time workers who are minors healthcare benefits or other benefits. Education suppression equals child labor. But let's circle back to the dismantling of healthcare, Social Security, and Medicaid, which makes up the third part of Trump's three deathly hallows. To build manufacturing facilities to cover 99 out of the top 100 industrial companies in our country, it's going to require either insane amount of local rebates, but it's also going to require federal government support. For example, Tesla received federal grants from our tax dollars to be able to build their first factories. There's no way around it that the federal government would have to provide grants or insane rebates in order to build more manufacturing in the US. But where is this money going to come from? That's where these cuts come in. Currently, Social Security, Medicaid, healthcare comprise about 50% of our entire federal budget. If the US wants to pay for domestic manufacturing and be able to provide incentives to do it, they're going to have to cut somewhere, and this is where they're going to cut. So what does that mean for people who currently survive on Medicaid, Social Security, and need health care? You can do that deductive reasoning in your head. You might think that I am sensationalizing things and creating conspiracies. I personally believe that I am somebody who believes in deductive reasoning and critical thinking, and all I can see is the actions that are happening and try to come to conclusions about what this all means. It does to me feel like in order to make America great again, Trump simply has to reduce the number of Americans that he has to make it great for. If you appreciated this content, please let me know, because I am practicing and testing out a few ideas for a very slowly developing podcast that I do plan on launching later this year. So please throw me a repost, a like, a comment, a share, all of the things along the side. This is how the tariffs.
And I when I saw this from this guy, I thought I had to play this for you all, because I think he said it succinctly. He said it right. But anyway, Michael, let's see. Bridge says, Egberto, Willies, so did you ever watch the video I said? Yes, about the calculation for how Trump came up with the crazy tariff. I absolutely did. Para ver quién más está aquí. Let's see. Looking for new messages instead of answers between folks. Bear with me. We have all of you guys are conversing among each other. I like that. So I won't get into conversations, but I'll just scroll by it. Okay. Michael says, we haven't had manufacturing since Reagan began deindustrializing our nation. True. Michael then also said, Mike C has one of the worst cases of projection I've ever seen, always excusing his opposition of his own guilt. That's very true. Lee the Bearcat, what evil, your president? Michael Ronan says, black companies, corporations that overwork their employees are common in Asia. We don't want that here in the United States. No, we don't. What else have we got? Vri says evil is a lack of empathy, aka the GOP. I think that is apropos. I think that stands correctly. All right, folks, I played the 4 videos that I intended to play today. We got over quite early today. So anybody that hadn't called before, want to call and make some message, or if you have something new to say and ready to say, give me a call, 281-823-7747. Again, that is 281-823-7747, and we can talk about it. Michael said, Eric, as I am the only Michael in the chat, that would be fine. It's the same reason I call you Eric. Oh, I guess that's an internal conversation there. Anyway, folks, number is 281-823-7747 for the call. The stock market has closed again for the nth consecutive day. It has closed in the negative realm. How you doing, Patrick?
Doing good. Did somebody else call?
No. Talk to me, sir.
Okay. Well, since you finished early, a week or so ago, we talked about Trump and Russia ties to Russian mafia.
We did. Yes.
Okay. Now, I felt kind of crazy even bringing it up to you, and I was curious about why you were trying to stay away from it a little bit. And I felt somewhat vindicated because 24 or 48 hours later, Tom Hartman came out with about a 12-minute clip that says if it smells like if it walks like a duck, quacks like a duck, it probably is a duck.
Yes.
He pointed out that absolutely everything that Trump is doing is exactly what you would expect from somebody that is trying to weaken or even collapse the United States. And one of the things I noticed out of everything that he was saying, we have international laws on how to conduct ourselves in war. And one of the things that you do not do is you don't bomb hospitals, you don't bomb infrastructure, you don't bomb schools. But without bombs, he's destroyed or is in the middle of destroying our education system, our healthcare system, and our infrastructure. And this looks intentional to me.
Let me tell you, everything to me that you says makes sense, right? I think that he's intentionally destroying the country. I think Donald Trump is pissed off that the people he wanted to take him seriously never did. Specifically, look, Wall Street never took him seriously. So do you think he really mind taking down Wall Street? Bankers never treated him seriously. In fact, he can't get loans from any American bank. So do you think he minds that the banks are going to crater under his fiscal tutelage? No, he doesn't mind. He never felt a part of the crowd because he always felt he was a joke. Well, again, that's because he is a joke. There's a guy that was in a, I don't remember his name right now, Goldberg. He was on MSNBC, CNN, and a lot of other stations. He was going through some old tapes, and he found the tapes that when he interviewed Donald Trump, and Donald Trump faking that he was some other guy talking on his behalf. A good friend of mine, I think is it Goldberg? I think it's Goldberg. We used to go to Netroots together, and about 3 years ago, those tapes resurfaced with Donald Trump, and he was back on TV again. So what can I say? Oh, hold 1 second. Let's get this other call. Yeah, Harry, what's up?
Yeah, with that piece you just played there, Arnie Arneson was talking about that very thing. Would they get rid of the undocumented workers like Trump's been trying to do? Then they replace them with 14-year-olds who can't go to school because they cut the funding. And she was elaborating on that most white people will vote for Democrats, so they want to reduce the white population from voting. And then it's really hard when you have 14-year-olds working for slave labor, working for $7.25 an hour, so they can do the cheap labor. Now, you have several. When I called earlier, you have several emails. What's the best email that to reach you at that you'll answer it as fast as you can?
The emails.
The best email.
The emails for this show is info@politicsdoneright.com. For KPFT, it's kpft@politicsdoneright.com. Either one. Okay,
so I'll send this to both, because this Freakonomics thing that I saw last night, they played it last month. The 10 myths about the tax system, and it goes into the tax system. I listen to this on NPR, and I think you'll find that very informative when you go on the podcast and check out the 10 myths about the tax system.
Thank
and
you.
Maybe you can talk about that on your morning and afternoon show.
I appreciate it, my friend. You too, my brother. Anyway, Patrick, anything else that you want to add, Pat?
Well, it would go kind of long. I'm glad that you brought it up, but for the listeners that don't know, in the 70s he did go bankrupt. Donald Trump did, and yes, you're right. He couldn't get a loan here, and that's where the Russian mafia comes in. The Russian mafia has a lot of illegitimate businesses that they have to wash money from so that they can make loans to people. They made a $4 billion loan to Trump. And then they also, before we intentionally crashed the Soviet Union's economy, he had a hotel that was going up in Moscow, and he lost that funding because the ruble went to nothing.
Right.
And so not only Yeah, not only did we turn our back on him financially, but where he found safety and where he found nurturing, we also destroyed. And so he's probably fairly vindictive. He has a soft spot for Russia. He got his wife from there. He does a lot of business there, and he's very open about it. He does a lot of business in Russia. His alliance is with Russia. It's not with us.
Right. You know, it is sad. It is very sad, but I think the thing about it is the way these guys ran this thing was great. They started out creating a compassion for Putin. Notice how there was a time that no Republican, Tea Party or otherwise, would ever side with Russia, would ever go ahead and try to be a part of Russia or whatever. But slowly, people like, what's the talking head that went over to not only Russia, but also went to Romania? Can't remember the name of the talk show host that lost his show at Fox News. But
I can't think of his name. I got his face, but I can't remember his name.
But it's amazing.
He was on PBS for a little bit too.
Right. They made it. They slowly moved the MAGA base towards supporting Russia and thinking that Russia was okay and thinking that Russia was a strong leader. All of that, they slowly moved their people that way. And now they are Bolsheviks, man.
Yeah. Well, I mean, listen to this. I know I'm going long. I'm sorry, but if you had a country that intentionally crashed your economy and did what we did and broke up the Soviet Union and everything, they would be waiting to do the exact same thing back to us.
Exactly.
Would they not?
And they have the perfect guy that's doing it right now, Donald Trump. Hey, look,
they are.
I can't wait till I have the more concrete stuff to really put that up, but I believe it all. But thank you very much, Patrick, and thank you, Harry, for calling in. Y'all have a wonderful day, my guy. All right, let's see. All right, folks, here's the deal. I am going to be closing up the shop now, but beforehand, I'd like to encourage all of you who support what we do for not only freedom, not only progressive values, etc., to please support the show. And the best way, I'm only going to ask for one form of support today, and that is to please support us via becoming paid subscribers of our Substack newsletter, Egberto Off the Record. And you can do that if you're on the app right now. Just go ahead and subscribe. Or you can just go to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, and become a paid subscriber. We need about 1,000 more subscribers to get to. We need about 700 more subscribers to get to the next tier in that little flag on Substack. But as far as being sustainable, we need about another 1,300 subscribers. So please, at your convenience, if you can, become a paid subscriber by going to politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It'll take you right to subscribe to our Substack. Anyway, I got to get out of here. My name is Egberto Willies. This is Politics Done Right. You guys know how I end this baby. I am what? I am out.
We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead, number 1, subscribe to our channel, and number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.